Have you ever been on a hike that turned into a bee chase? Well, I have. Okay, so I'm not the most athletic person out there, but I can barely run a mile without feeling like I'm about to collapse. But you know what I can do? I can hike for hours, walk for days, and still have energy to spare. And there's nothing like being out in nature with no one but your own thoughts to keep you company. It's like a mini holiday, except you don't have to deal with security or overpriced airport food. Don't get me wrong, I've tried the whole gym thing. I even had a gym membership once, but the only thing I was really working out was my credit card. Plus, have you ever tried running on a treadmill? It's like going nowhere, fast. And don't even get me started on the people at the gym, all grunting and sweating and judging. No thanks, I'll take my peaceful hike any day. But my favourite form of exercise? Well, that's hula hooping. Come on, who doesn't love swinging a plastic circle around their waist like a maniac? It's like being a kid again, except now I have a better balance and less coordination. And let's not forget about cycling. The wind in your hair, the open road, the fear of getting hit by a car. It's exhilarating. And every once in a while, I like to switch it up and go ice skating. It's like dancing on frozen water, except I'm not graceful and constantly afraid of falling on my butt. But hey, at least I'm moving my body, right? So, yeah, I may not be the most traditional when it comes to exercise, but at least I'm having fun. And isn't that what really matters? That and not breaking any bones while trying to balance. I've also been trying to get into swimming more, but it's expensive. Unless you have a membership and go every day, it's just not worth it. I'd rather spend that money on something more important, like a lifetime supply of chocolate. But hey, I'm not knocking traditional exercise. I know it works for some people. But for me, if I'm going to stick with something long term, I've got to enjoy it. And let's face it, sweating profusely while running and staring at a wall just doesn't scream fun to me. Plus, let's not forget about the mental benefits. Sure, hiking or walking may not give you a six-pack abs, but it does wonders for your mind. Nothing beats the feeling of being out in nature, breathing in fresh air, and not having to worry about other people. I first got into walking because my dad couldn't keep up with our high-energy Siberian Husky, Red. Have you seen those things run? It's like they're training for the Doggy Olympics. So I stepped in and took over the dog walking duties. And it was quite the adventure. We would go on long walks around the lake and through different trails. And Red loved every minute of it. We even spiced things up by walking on walls. Yeah, you heard that right. I trained my dog to walk on walls. But then he got older and started tripping over his own paws. So we had to retire our wall walking days. Can't have him breaking a leg. That would be one expensive vet bill. But don't worry, Red is still going strong at 17 years old. That's practically a senior citizen in dog years. He may be slowing down a bit, but he's still a happy and friendly old boy. Although now he just turns around and heads home when he's had enough. It's a little sad, but hey, at least he's not a grumpy old fart. Well, on the bright side, at least I have some super cute boots for hiking now, thanks to my husband, who convinced me to give it a try. I've always enjoyed long walks, so why not? He had all the gear and gadgets because apparently hiking is not just a leisurely stroll in the park. But hey, if you end up loving it, it's worth the investment, especially if you're stuck in the middle of nowhere and the weather decides to go from sunny to snowstorm in 0.5 seconds. Or if you trip and sprain your ankle, you'll definitely need some snacks and a signal for help. It's like survival of the fittest out there. So, you better be prepared or risk becoming a wild animal's afternoon snack. If you're heading out for a hike, make sure you have all the essentials. Like a good pair of waterproof boots in case you come across a river or a puddle, and don't rely on your phone for directions because, let's face it, Google Maps can be a bit spotty when in the great outdoors. Bring some actual navigation tools, like a compass or a map. And sun protection is a must, unless you want to end up looking like a lobster by the end of the day. Don't forget your thermals and a coat, in case the weather decides to play a cruel trick on you and suddenly drop in temperature. A torch is a good idea too, because let's be honest, no one looks cool using their phone as a flashlight, And just in case things really hit the fan, make sure you have a first aid kit, matches and a lighter, and a fire starter. You never know when you might need to start a fire to signal for help. Oh, and don't forget a small repair kit, because you never know when your backpack might decide to rip or your shoe might fall apart. And, of course, pack plenty of snacks and water, because no one wants to deal with a hungry hiker. And the grand finale, make sure you have a sturdy backpack with lots of pockets to carry all this stuff. Trust me, trying to juggle all of this in your hands would be quite the adventure in itself. For those easy peasy lemon squeezy walks, you might only need half the gear, but trust me, it's better to have something and not need it, than need something and not have it. I like hiking both short and long trails, but the key to success is going early before the crowds come in. I spew some serious gibberish on my walks, but like Shrek always says, better out than in. That's how I come up with my brilliant ideas for my creative pursuits. It all starts with a little, imagine if, and then a whole bunch of nonsense just falls out my gob. One time my husband and I were strolling along our usual route, all prepared with our trusty flask of tea and some snacks, but things took a turn for the worse when I burned the bacon sandwiches. They were edible, but definitely not the highlight of the day. And just when we were about to settle down for a cuppa, we heard a suspicious bzzz. Turns out a bee had snuck into my tea and was trying to take a dip. Without a second thought, I chucked the hot tea all over my poor husband's lap. And that's when all hell broke loose. A swarm of bees came out of nowhere, probably attracted to the honey in the tea, and started chasing us. We packed up our snacks faster than you could say lickety-split, and hightailed it out of there. We tried to stop for a break later on, but as soon as we did, we heard that dreaded bzzz again. Those little buggers were waiting for us. Needless to say, we speed-walked our way out of there. Safe to say, we finished that walk in record time, because we were not about to become their afternoon snack. I've never been stung, and I was not going to let them ruin my streak. So, I have a fear of heights, which really means I have a fear of falling from great heights. I'm not scared of the actual height, just the potential plummet to my death. Needless to say, I won't be signing up for any cliff diving competitions anytime soon. But my husband convinced me to go on this hike to see some plane ruins. Little did I know the trail was basically on the edge of a cliff. I'm surprised I didn't leave claw marks on the ground as I meandered along, avoiding any glimpse of the terrifying drop below. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to our destination. After all that climbing and huffing and puffing, I was completely knackered. But then I had a stroke of genius and pulled out some bugles, those little cone-shaped crisps. And just like that, I was revitalized and ready to go back home. It's a shame we didn't reach the crash site though. With the energy from the bugles, we practically flew back home. If I had known it would be that easy, I might have just sucked it up and powered through the last half hour of the hike. Well, at least we got a good workout and some tasty snacks out of it. Well, we thought we were going to be adventurous and map out a new route to the crash site. I was determined to see it, even though the weather in England is always so bloody unpredictable. But that wind and sleet came out of nowhere. We couldn't see a thing without our glasses, and even then we were practically walking blind. We were determined to push through, but the ground was a mess. It was like trying to walk through a giant bowl of sludge. We were either going to get stuck or end up face first in the mud, not exactly the adventure we were hoping for. So we did the responsible thing and turned back, and those gammon sandwiches we had in the car were the best damn sandwiches I've ever had. It was like a reward for not getting stuck in the mud like everyone else. They were probably looking at us, all warm and cosy in the car, with our hot tea and delicious buttery sandwiches, and wishing they were us. Ah, the joys of being prepared. So there we were, setting off on this hike, with the sun shining and the birds chirping, thinking it was going to be a lovely day. But by the time we hit the middle of the walk, it was like Mother Nature had a mood swing and started throwing everything at us. Hail, snow, wind, rain, you name it. We were getting pelted with it all. But we were determined to finish, because apparently turning back and rewalking the same miserable conditions was not an option. We had to huddle together every few minutes just to survive. It was like we were in a survival movie, Except instead of facing grizzly bears or quicksand, we were battling against frozen balls of water and strong winds. Trying to walk on a slippery hill is not an easy feat. One wrong step and we would have been sliding down that hill like a human sled. But we finally made it back to the car, feeling like we had just escaped a war zone. What's the first thing we do? Get some chippy chips with some scraps on, because note says, reward for surviving a natural disaster like some proper chips. I mean, it's almost as satisfying as getting vending machine sweets after swimming, right? My top piece of advice for hiking is to always be prepared for anything, and I mean anything, like bringing a parachute just in case you accidentally stumble off a cliff, and if you can, bring a buddy too. You know, for emotional support when you realise you forgot the snacks. And if you're going solo, make sure to tell someone where you're going, you know, just in case you get lost and you need the search and rescue team to find you. But hey, no pressure. Just remember to have fun and enjoy the beautiful scenery, while you still can. Have you checked out my website yet? It's got all kinds of goodies for sale, like stickers, bookmarks, and commissions. Oh, and don't forget to take a peek at my children's book, Super Poppy. And if you're feeling extra generous, hit that subscribe, share, and like button. Plus, if you're into binge watching, I've got plenty of other hilarious videos just waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? Get clicking. See you!